everybody. Welcome to another episode of Model Building Start to Finish. This is John, and I'm sitting here with
Dan,
as usual. And this is our final episode for this model, isn't it?
Yep.
So you said something last time about putting signs on it, or?
Yeah, I wanted to create some signage. The building did come with decals, but I decided not to use that. I wanted to personalize it a little more.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to use a program called Adobe Illustrator, which is a graphics program, to create some signs and then print them. So why don't we follow along on the computer and see how I do that?
Yeah.
So I happen to already have a template set up for a 6-inch by 8-inch document at 300 dpi, so I'm using that. And that brings us over here, and now I'm going to show rulers so I can see where things are. And now I'm creating a guide. A guide is just a little line that you can use to snap things to. And now I'm taking the guide and making sure that it's right on 3 inches, so that's the middle of the page.
Oh, right. Then you can do it the other direction to get the center if you need to.
If I need to, but in this case I don't think we'll need to. So now I'm selecting the type tool and I'm going to type something. In this case, TSG feed and seed. And then I'm going to go up and center justify the type. And then I'm going to drag it until it snaps onto that guide. So that now I know it's centered. And now I'm going to change the font to something that looks a little better. And I'm going to make it bigger. And then I'm going to use first I'm going to scroll it because I want to see what I'm doing. This little window that pops up is right in the way sometimes. I'm changing the text from 100% width to 140 to make it a little wider. And now I'm just dragging it back. So now I'm using the rectangle tool to make a box around it.
Hey, what happened?
Everything went black. So I just changed it so that instead of having black with no border, I put a black border and empty on the inside. And I also dragged the rectangle under the text so that the text is on top. And now I'm just adjusting the dimensions of the rectangle and making sure that it's centered. And I'm just going to drag it down a little bit more. And I'm going back to the type tool and I'm going to add a second line.
Sounds like a good wholesome place.
Yeah. Wholesome. You have to kind of get that inflection in there.
Whatever you say.
Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. Move the text around a little bit. So don't really like it just being plain black like that, so I'm going to change it and give it a red border. And then I'm going to look at the interior color and make that white. Now I'm selecting the other text and do the same thing.
Uh-oh. Oh.
So now that red border on the smaller text is a little too thick because those letters are smaller, so I'm changing the stroke weight from 1 down to 0.5. So it kind of makes it look a little more to scale, or in proportion, I guess you could say. Now I'm going to take the sign and make the background some other color. Try that. Maybe try this. I don't really like that either. A darker.
How about hot pink?
Yeah, I don't think that would look so good. So I'm still not quite happy with this. So I'm going to change the border on that to red. Looking okay, but I'm still not quite happy with it. So decided I'm going to change the border color on the text to more of an orangey color, because that reminds me more of the color scheme on the building. I like it though, because you can keep playing with things until you get something you like, you know. And I'll change the border on the rectangle also.
Right at this point, you're really just kind of fine-tuning, huh?
Right, right. And then look at it a little bit. Select the rectangle again. And change that to dark brown. And that looks pretty good.
It shows up better like this.
Yeah, it's easy to read, and it kind of matches the colors on the building fairly well. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that. I have my umpteen files and folders on my computer, but saving it in the model building start to finish area. So I gave it a name that I can remember. And that's just some stuff. I just click over it and say OK. So now I'm going to select all three layers of the rectangle and the two pieces of text and collect them in a new layer. That makes it like a unit, and I'm going to call it sign. Now I can select that, move it up as a unit.
I think they used to call that grouping on Microsoft Publisher.
Yeah, different programs may call it different things. Anyway, now I just duplicated it, and I have another one. And I'll just move it down below this one. Called that one sign 2. And I'm going to duplicate that. Call this one sign 3.
How many do you need?
Well, I wanted to make a couple large ones and a couple small ones. So I'm going to move this down. Oops, a little too far. Okay. That's better. And now I'm going to use the transform dialog box here to make it smaller. And move it a little bit. And I don't know what I was doing right then. I'm going to duplicate this one more time, make this sign 4. So I have a second smaller one. I'll just move that down. And that's pretty much it. So now it's time to print. And I turned on the artboard tool. Isn't really necessary, but I just wanted to check to make sure that the artboard was the same as the size of the document. And then I'm going to print. And then there's some options for printing. I'm selecting the paper size here. I'm printing it on letter size paper, so I wanted to select US letter. And then I have to select the printer. In my case, I have a Epson R2880. And now in color management, I'm telling it to let Illustrator determine the colors, and then I'm setting the printer profile to my Epson R2880 Ultra Premium Matte Paper. Ultra Premium Presentation Matte, they call it. And that'll leave alone. Setting those, make sure that the colors that come out of the printer are pretty much the colors you see on the screen. And everything else you can pretty much ignore. And then I just go ahead and, there we go, and print.
And you know, the whole time I was watching you, Dan, I thought it was going to be something like Dan's Llama Food Store or something.
Well, you could make it anything you wanted. You know, could even make it like a bistro or something if you wanted to have it represent a you know, building that had been repurposed.
Yep.
But anyway, I decided to make it a TSG building.
Obviously.
Yeah. Now it's just a matter of cutting these out and then figuring out how to mount them on the building.
Yay.
So on the smaller signs, I'm using an orange marker to go around the edges just to make it look less like white paper.
Oh, that's a good trick. It looks like it matches the, what do you call that, a drop shadow, I guess, or the outline that you put on the lettering.
Yeah.
Could you have used brown or black for this too?
Yeah, I was just trying to match since I had that little border color on there.
Yeah.
I was trying to get it as close as possible.
Yeah, it looks good.
So I went ahead and sprayed the signs with some dull coat just to give them a little extra protection.
All right.
And now I'm going to glue them onto the building, the small signs anyway.
What are you going to use for that?
Probably some canopy glue.
Oh, yeah, that's going to look nice up there.
Just going to glue it approximately centered and lined up with the board so it's straight. I put one on the end of the building and one above the railroad door.
Looks really good.
Thanks. So those are just glued on with canopy glue. For the larger sign, we're going to have to do something a little different.
And what's that?
I'm going to have to create a structure for it because it's going to go on the other side of the building above the loading dock.
Oh, okay.
The big sign needs some support since it's going to go on the roof. I cut out a piece of 040 styrene the same size as the sign. And I painted it black and I drilled a couple of holes in it. And that's going to be for some bracing. I also drilled a couple of corresponding holes in the roof.
Oh, okay.
And what I want to do is put some brass wire in there to just hold it up so that it doesn't fall over.
Oh, right. Like you'd see that on a regular building.
Yeah.
It's just a sign being held up.
Yeah.
But it's mounted on the roof, basically.
Right. And then, so I'm going to put that on and figure out the bracing. And then once that's all done, then I can glue this sign on just like I glued the other ones on. So in order to make sure that the holes that I drilled in the roof were the same spacing as the sign, what I did was I just put the sign up to where I wanted to drill the holes and then just drilled through the holes that were already in the sign.
Sure. And it looks like you used the roof, the ridge in the roof to keep it straight, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, the sign's going to be like this.
Yeah.
Kind of. And then I'll have to angle the supports. But that's okay. That should just take a little bit of bending wire.
There it is.
Yeah, so I obviously need to paint these little brass pieces black, but
Yeah.
I just need to glue this together.
It's exactly
paint those.
exactly what I expected too. So
Yeah, I think it should hold it up just fine.
yeah, I will. You're not going to put this in a windstorm, right? So
No,
not a real one.
right.
Hey, it's looking like we're down to the last bit here, huh?
Yeah, so all that's left is to glue this sign to the signboard.
What
Yeah.
what do you use to glue it?
I'm using canopy glue, and what I'm doing is just spreading a thin layer across the back of the paper,
Uh-huh.
and then just pushing it up against the signboard with some, I'm trying not to use my fingers, like a piece of foam. Like this is actually an N-scale cradle for equipment,
Yep.
but it also makes a good thing to use to push the sign against the signboard.
Oh, sure, because it spreads out the pressure.
Right.
Looks good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it.
Oh, you mean it's done?
I think it's done. Yeah,
For real?
for real.
Wow. All right. Well, another job well done. So I guess then, well, normally we've been doing road tests, right, for
Yeah,
the locomotive and
doesn't
rolling
really work
stuff.
with the building.
Right? It would just sit there.
It would just
so
sit there. Yeah, it's not very exciting.
okay. Well, here's what we'll do then. I'm gonna rattle some cages and see if maybe we can find a home for this thing.
Yeah.
And next week for Dan's models, maybe we'll be right giving it away to some lucky new home.
Yeah.
It's like adopting kittens.
Kind of. Yeah.
See everybody next time.
Okay. Bye.
Adopting kittens.